The most important relationship that you will ever have is the relationship with yourself. And that is the foundation of every other relationship that you have, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's work relationship, whether you're a leader, your family, it doesn't matter. It starts with the relationship that you have with yourself. And part of that is knowing yourself, knowing what you need, and taking care of yourself, taking those breaks. It's part of that relationship with yourself, because in order for your business to be sustainable, in order for you to keep working all those hours and pouring yourself into your business, you need to recharge your own battery. You need to fill your own cup. You have to. It's part of your self-care. And that's what's going to help you go farther. But if you go, eventually you're going to get burnt out. And that's the same, it's the same thing in relationships. We want to make sure that we're taking the time that we know ourselves and we know what we need, and we're taking care of our own needs ourselves and communicating what we need with our partner.
What tips can you share with all the moms that are trying to create their business and they're trying to really go all in without feeling like they're sacrificing something?
I love that. I love that question for all the mompreneurs there. I see you, I hear you, I feel you. We're in it together. And it's a powerful question, because I know that working on that balance, it's not easy. First of all, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. It's not easy at all to manage all the pieces of the puzzle on a daily basis. I think the two things that I would say that have worked for me is, first, again, tapping into self-compassion. Give yourself grace. Remind yourself that you're doing the best that you can with what you have at the moment. And that's an important reminder.
The most important thing that I want moms to know, and dads too, is that you have to pause and take a deep breath. You have to do that multiple times a day.
Yeah.
You have to not be afraid to see, when you recognize, and this is for the parents who, I can't tell you how many parents I have sat across from in my exam room, and they have told me, they've just crossed their arms and they've said, Veronica, it's like I'm looking at my 12-year-old self in the mirror, because they're talking about the frustrations. And I remember being like that. And I remember doing this at school. And I remember my mom having the same frustrations and this and that. And I would tell parents that, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of what you're looking at. It doesn't make you any less of an effective parent.
Women are built a certain way. We're built where we have that sensory acuity when it comes to our children. So we kind of know intuitively when something is going on with our children, when they need us, when something's wrong. We have that. And that's a beautiful thing. Being an entrepreneur doesn't take that away from you. So you can still be there for your children, and you could still be a mom when they need you. And you can still be an example of a woman that is independent, that is hardworking, that is building something, that is helping others, that is not only helping me, the child, but is helping other people and making an impact. That's a wonderful example that you're setting for your children as well. And it's important for them to see that. It's important for them to see what you're doing. It's important to see that you are, first of all, that you take care of your own needs and you're not neglecting yourself for your family, which women, sometimes we fall into that trap, but also that we are doing something that is important to us, that is fulfilling, that doesn't take away from being a mom. It's just, again, that we're human beings too. We're not just a mom, right? I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a wife. I'm not just an entrepreneur. I'm a human being. I am all of that.
Gratitude practice, I would say, I wake up in the morning and think of 3 things I'm grateful for, and I go at night and think of at least 1 thing I'm grateful for in the day. I usually do 3 and 3. And that has been a practice that I do every single day, because no matter what, I want to set the day in a positive way and be ready to tackle whatever comes my way. And at night, I want to go to sleep in that space of gratitude as well. There's always something to be grateful for. So I find it, and I want to finish on that note. And it has been such a game changer for me. It really has. I highly encourage, it's like a muscle. You first start small, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to think of 3 things. But then it's like, it becomes easier. It becomes like when you build a habit, then it becomes second nature. And it's very powerful.
My why is really big and it's strong and it's very purposeful and it's intentional. So when I do take time away from my kids, I make it clear to them why I'm doing that. So then they understand. And when I actually went on this journey, I actually invited them into the process. So then that way they could also get excited about it. And my daughter was so excited about it. She got inspired by a book she was reading and then also like what I was doing. And so she wanted to create her own company. And so I wanted to water her. So we started her business, Harlan Rose. It's an e-commerce business for girls. And it's an empowerment business that really has empowering terms, on different t-shirts and items that young girls can really align to. And so I think that's a part of it is like, first, like, there is no balance in this, One day your business is going to need you more than your kids. And then there's going to be days where your kids are going to need you more. So what I actually do is I harmonize things.
This is where it's the problem that people come home frustrated from work, frustrated because they had a bad day, and they come home and then they have that energy, that negative energy, that angry energy. And what happens with energy? What happens right now? If I start yawning, if I yawn because I'm tired, then chances are you're going to yawn, Omar, right? Because energy is contagious. And if you come home angry and frustrated, it's going to bleed into your home. Your family's going to pick up. That's the energy you're bringing to your family. So it's okay to share with your family about your day, but you don't want to bring that energy, that negative energy that's going to impact them. So you want to be responsible for managing your own state. And I think that's the key. And that's what people get wrong. They think, oh, I had a bad day and my home is my safe space. I'm going to, I'm going to be angry and I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to sulk here. And that's not fair to your family. You want to be able to connect in that way.
Sitting in front of, for example, a therapist with my daughter and myself, and my daughter was already a teenager, and she was able to freely say, Mom, when you're anxious, I get more anxious. Your anxiety affects me directly. And I was like, yes, I know it's energy. And I had never heard it from her mouth, but to hear it from her really affected me. And I think a lot of us as parents, because when you have ADHD, I think there's a fine line between anxiety and ADHD, right? A lot of those symptoms overlap, not for everybody, but for a lot of us. For me, I know they do. And it was so refreshing in a way. I mean, not in the moment, but looking back and now that I have the tool, it was so refreshing that my daughter was able to call me out in a safe space and say, you need to bring down your anxiety and you need to stop worrying about my grades, because the more you worry about my grades, the more I worry and then I can't function. So I've got this, Mom. You need to trust me and believe in me and let me do it.
So syndrome is so real. And the good news is that we all suffer from it at some point. The important part is to understand how deep is it affecting us to find the help that we need. But I think it's a generalization that I'm comfortable saying, because at any given time, even at the top of like in the corporate world, at the top of the leadership, or whoever, an entrepreneur, a professional, at some point we feel like we a fraud in what do we deserve what we accomplish? Like you have to, you start having these narratives, and that is what spirals into imposter syndrome and to double guessing and self-doubting. And it can be very, very intense for some people. Self-compassion is crucial, because we have to be gentle with ourselves, just the way we would want to be with anybody else going through a hard time or a difficult time or a challenging time.
You want to be really aware of what your thoughts and your beliefs are about relationships. If you're constantly telling yourself, I don't have time for a partner, I don't have time for a relationship, or if you're constantly telling yourself relationships are really hard, then what happens is subconsciously you're choosing partners, you're choosing to date, or when someone does, approach you, it's someone that's going to really be unavailable and is not a good match for you, is not aligned with your values, your life and your goals. And then inevitably when it doesn't work out, you're like, you see, relationships are too hard. It's not possible for me. So you want to really rewire the way you're thinking. And you could say, relationships are very satisfying with the right partner. You want to make sure that you're saying things like that to yourself. Be aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. And also acknowledge that having a partnership is something that is human. We want to connect with other people. We want to connect with our families. We want to connect with our friends. And it's completely human to want to connect with a romantic partner.